Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup. Stage 3 Playoffs Results. So, first of all, I'm sorry if the audio might be a bit different than usual. I've had some audio issues for some reason, but we're not going to dwell on that. So, Stage 3 Playoffs. Don't ever tell me that Overwatch League is not an anime, because I think these stage playoffs prove that it most certainly is. Yeah. So let's get into this, shall we? Our first game was the Houston Outlaws taking on the Vancouver Titans, and I had some hope for the Houston Outlaws coming into this because they'd shown us a really good stage, their best stage by far since like stage 1 of the 2018 season, and they looked competent on the DPS comps, until they come across Vancouver Titans. Vancouver, they're capable of running the DPS, and they go toe-to-toe with the Houston Outlaws. They play some GOATs, they play some DPS. Vancouver sweep aside the Houston Outlaws 3-0, and Vancouver will proceed to the semi-finals with a chance to try and get back their crown that the San Francisco Shock stole from them. Houston Outlaws, I wouldn't be too worried about this. You are playing one of the best teams in the league. Houston, you've got to be happy with your stage. Your stage has been fantastic, so I wouldn't be too worried. Now you need to push on and have a really good stage 4. Even though there's no stage playoffs to play for, you can still get into those play-ins for the overall playoffs, so it's not all lost. After this, we had the Shanghai Dragons taking on the New York Excelsior. And this is where the anime starts, right? So, Shanghai Dragons come into this as 8th seed. New York Excelsior are the top seed. This is the, on paper, one-sided game in the actual fixture list. And Shanghai look at that and say, nah, dude, we're not going to get rolled here. New York Excelsior, what are they famous for, we might ask? Well, they're famous for choking in playoffs. They did it in the overall playoffs last season. They did it in some of the stage playoffs last season. They did it in the stage playoffs in stage 1, I believe. And guess what? Yeah, Excelsior choke. 3-1 to the Shanghai Dragons. Brilliant result for the Dragons, and their DPS comp looks like dominating right now. It's really good. Really, really good from the Shanghai Dragons. I'm just going to put it out there, I would not want to play the Shanghai Dragons in Stage 4. I just wouldn't. Just wouldn't. So, there was one shock for you. Moving on, we have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the San Francisco Shock. Yeah. Seoul Dynasty, you play control on your first map, I believe it was Oasis, and you look decent on DPS with Fletter on the Pharah. But then you decide, well, we're only going to do that on control. For the next 3 maps, we'll match San Francisco Shock's desire to play GOATs or Sombra GOATs. Well, unfortunately, Seoul Dynasty, there's one problem with that. If you match the Shock with those comps, you are going to lose, because they are better than you. And that's putting it very bluntly, but it's the truth. Why did you go and match their comps? Because they are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world, on GOATs right now. Because they've beaten Vancouver last stage. So, I think we have to treat Shock as the best GOATs team right now. Why? Why, Sol? Why go into a mirror matchup with them? It's cost you. It's 3-1 to the Shock. They proceed to the semi-finals. But who would they play? Next up, Los Angeles Valiant taking on the Hangzhou Spark. Now, this, on paper, was the closest game to call out of all of them, because Valiant are on a tear-up. An absolute tear-up in Stage 3. And the Hangzhou Spark, yes, they've shown very, very good form, but Valiant is an easy slip-up game. And a slip-up game it indeed is. So, it's like a battle to the death of GOATs versus Sombra GOATs or GOATs versus GOATs. They pretty much mirror each other throughout the match, but the Valiant squeeze it out. Now, the interesting thing is, these games between the Valiant and the Spark have always gone to map 5, and this one doesn't buck the trend. Map 5 it is, but for the first time, Valiant win the map 5. This means that it ends the Spark's run of map 5 wins. They've now lost their first ever map 5 as an organisation, What that will do to their map 5 prospects in the future, I don't know, but hopefully, if you're Hangzhou Spark, you're not thinking about map 5 because you want to win the game without needing the map 5, but it's not... I expected a better stage playoff from the Hangzhou Spark, but to be quite honest, it's no shame losing to the Valiant right now. The Valiant are really, really good, and now all Hangzhou Spark need to do is concentrate on stage 4. Big time, because I think we all know what might happen in stage 4, and it could really shake things up. So, semi-final time. We get the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Vancouver Titans. Now, what was I saying just now about the Seoul Dynasty and San Francisco Shock game? Don't match your opponents if they're very good at goats. Vancouver Titans are very, very good at goats. Second best team in the world, arguably, at goats. So, what does Shanghai do? Goats? No. Shanghai don't touch goats. They're like Chengdu Mark II. They are not going to touch goats for love nor money. Shanghai think, well, we'll play pulled pork, oink and yoink, halt hook, Orisa Roadhog, or we're going to play triple DPS with a wrecking ball. We are not going to play goats into Vancouver Titans. And guess what? It pays big dividends not to match them. Vancouver Titans didn't know what to do. They got one win on Numbani, which is a map that's kind of favourable to goats anyway. But they did not know what to do with Shanghai. If there is any team at the moment that is so good at countering goats with DPS comps, it's Shanghai. We always thought it was Chengdu. It's not anymore. Shanghai Dragons. Shanghai Dragons are crazy. 4-1 to the Shanghai Dragons. They knock out the Vancouver Titans. So that's bye-bye seed number 1, bye-bye seed number 2. Oh, by the way, Shanghai Dragons, did I mention they were seed number 8? Oh, boy. You see the anime stuff coming through here? That is crazy. That is bonkers. Like, what? What on earth? Fantastic from the Shanghai Dragons, and finally a team that does not fall into the trap of mirroring their opponents when they know they're going to get beaten if they go to the mirror. It cost the Seoul Dynasty, and the Shanghai Dragons looked at it and were like, nah, we're not going to match them. Brilliant from the Shanghai Dragons. They move on to the final. Their first ever final as an organisation, I might add. So, then we had to decide who they were going to face. Would it be the Los Angeles Valiant or the San Francisco Shock? Oh dear. And then we get back to the thing of Valiant went and matched the Shock for Sombra Goats and Goats. And what did the Seoul Dynasty do? They did exactly the same thing. What happened to the Seoul Dynasty? They lost. What happens to the Valiant when they match the Goats and Sombra Goats that comes out of the Shock? Yep, they lost. 4-0 to the San Francisco Shock. Reminded it is best of 7. So, yeah. Don't match them. Why match them? Valiant, we've seen so much promising stuff out of your DPS comps all throughout the entire Stage 3, and then in the Stage Playoffs you were like, goats! No. Don't know why you did that. Not too harsh on the Valiant. I mean, yes, they've got themselves a bit more money because they got to the semi-finals anyway. But I just would have liked to see them roll out the DPS a bit more, not mirror the Shock, and maybe, just maybe, they might have got something out of it. But Valiant, they've had a very good stage, just like the Houston Outlaws. And again, just like the Houston Outlaws, concentrate on getting into those play-ins because it's really, really doable, especially if you can go on a run like you've been in Stage 3. A 5-2 record might well get you there. Will likely get you there. So, promising times for the Valiant. But that means we have a final to discuss. The Shanghai Dragons taking on the San Francisco Shock. A team that has never won a final versus, or never even been in a final to be quite honest, versus a team that won the last one. They are Stage 2 champions, the San Francisco Shock, obviously. This is a match. If you have not watched this match, go and watch it. It is one of the greatest matches in Overwatch League history. It is one of the greatest matches in Overwatch history. And you know why? Because it's the way the game was meant to be played. Now, you'll see why I mean that as we go through this. We started off on Oasis. Shanghai run their DPS heavy comp. San Francisco Shock show us something different. They don't run Sinatra. They don't run Super. They don't run Rascal. Instead, they decide, hey, let's give a Smurf, Architect, and Striker a run. Those are some players we haven't seen in a long time, but we know they're very capable. This means that the San Francisco Shock run something very different. They run the Oink and Yoink. They run Roadhog Irissa, and they run it actually quite well. Smurf and Choi Hyobin actually really do link up well, but the problem is the DPS was a mismatch. Ding and DM were very, very good throughout this entire series. So Shanghai Dragons take it on Oasis. This means that Shock go back to their tried and tested. They bring back Super Sinatra and Rascal, and they play Goats with Dasha Baptiste. And yeah, Shanghai don't mirror it like the other teams do. Shanghai will play what they're good at. And guess what? It gets them results. So they do this on the next two maps, being Numbani and Horizon Lunar Colony. This puts Shanghai Dragons 3-0 up after 3 maps. Match point, stage point, championship point. And that's crazy. When you think about that, that is crazy, right? Shock aren't done though. Shock aren't going to go down without a fight. And it is, in some respects, Shanghai getting a bit impatient. They use their ults a bit questionably. You know, it's pressure. It's pressure when you're a team like Shanghai Dragons competing for a stage title. It is a lot of pressure. So they end up losing Havana. They also lose Ilios and Eichenwald. So now it's just flipped all the way back. The momentum is with the Shock. The Shock aren't playing Goats all the time, but they are playing it most of the time. And we don't know what's going to happen when we go into map 7 at this point on Dorado, because actually it's a map that would favour the Shock somewhat, and you would be excused for backing the Shock at this point when you see them come back from 3-0 down to 3-3. But the Shanghai Dragons steady themselves, and they have an incredibly good defense on Dorado, stopping them at the middle of just after point 1. So that's a good hold. They don't get to the power plant, which is good. And the Shock, this is the issue. They play what they know, and they didn't have an answer to Shanghai's DPS. DM and Ding are so good. Some of the best DPS in the league right now. And they end up just sweeping the Shock aside. So yes, I am saying that right. Shanghai Dragons beat the San Francisco Shock 4-3, and the Shanghai Dragons are your Stage 3 champions. Now, turn around and say to me that Overwatch League is not an anime. 0-40 in Season 1. Season 2, Stage 3 champions. The road is complete. Now all they need to do is make sure they get to those overall playoffs. That is crazy. That is crazy. And the Shock just have to say they were outplayed on the day. They were out-comped and outplayed. When they went into the mirror, they couldn't keep with what Shanghai were doing. Shanghai, and, you know, put this in perspective. Shanghai came into this as Seed 8. To win this stage, they have beaten Seeds 1, 2, and 3. Let that sink in. That's crazy. That is bonkers. That is never done before. Never done before. Shanghai Dragons have, this will go down in League history for what Shanghai Dragons have done here. This is, crazy. And I don't know whether we'll ever see it again. It is a different team, but it's, still a massive thing. Still a massive thing, and especially to come in as 8th seed and then just knock out the top 3 seeds to win it all. You know, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But it's also a sign of what might come in Stage 4. And it's exciting, I think. This puts Shanghai in such a great position. Yes, they've been playing 3 DPS quite a bit with Youngjin on the Doomfist, but if they can transfer it to an Oink and Yoink, Hog and Orisa comp, then they could be really dominant in Stage 4, like really dominant. So this is crazy from the Shanghai Dragons, a team to really, really watch out for. So that's Stage 3, done and dusted, and it will go into the history books and be remembered forever as one of the craziest stages we've ever had. But on to Stage 4 next. Obviously, win conditions is still going on. We're looking at all those teams. There will be a Stage 4 preview most likely. One thing to note, on Friday at midnight, there is a Stage 4 preview for done by the Overwatch League. It's a preview show. And there are some special announcements apparently in that show. What I find weird is, obviously we're expecting one of those announcements to be a 2-2 roll lock in the Overwatch League. But what weirds me out is it's announcements, not announcement. So if it's multiple announcements, then we could not only be seeing 2-2 roll lock, it's possible we might be seeing some teasers for the Summer Games. We might, because the Summer Games is coming out before Hero 31. We might be seeing all sorts. So we know Jeff was there the other day. Something could be happening. So I would tune into that preview show on Friday at midnight BST. That's 1 a.m. in Europe. And I believe it's 4 p.m. Pacific time. Yes. I never forget you, America. It's just, I'm an EU. But I'm going to leave it here. What a stage. What an absolute baller of a stage. And just wow. I hope Stage 4 is this good. I hope Stage 4 is this good, because we have been spoilt in Stage 3. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.